All right, welcome everybody to the show. Hope everybody's doing fantastic out there. Looks like we are good to go. Welcome to the start of a brand new week, and thus we continue closing every series down. I believe this is the second to the last one. So hold on tight to your seats, because in today's episode 10 of Article Reviews in our Article Review series, this is our final finale, episode 10, where we will be going over the topic of misogyny and misandry. Don't worry, I'll go over that, just in case you don't know what either or means. You probably already do, judging by today's insane world that we unfortunately live in, where you have to chase after the good and kind of ignore the bad somewhat, because otherwise it'll bring you down. All the bad news out there, all the never-ending conflicts, where things are just getting worse, not much better, that type of thing. You gotta kind of protect your own sanity is what I'm saying. Not turn the other cheek, but just be aware of it and move on. So, okay. First, let's take a look into a few slides before we begin to go over what I have are 3 short articles. So, it's kind of a big bang here, but not really, because this is article review, so I don't want to get a long, boring article. That's not kind of how you celebrate a final finale in this case. So, for variety as a form of celebration, I have 3 different versions of this topic prepared. See what I did there? So, keeping it exciting and different. So, no need to toss in a bunch of articles, because 3 sums it up very nicely. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Now, I call this the gender war, misogyny and misandry. It's pretty much. Let's go ahead and pull up the first slide here. Here we go. It all boils down to completely immature behavior, okay? Fighting the opposite sex, or gender, if you will. Creating even more problems, whether it's hating all men or hating all women. That sort of thing. I'm sure you probably heard of that. When all that's ever needed are wise, peaceful solutions. That's right. I mean, hatred. It's hatred we're talking about here, people. I mean, that's a strong word. And what's kind of sad is that these days, if you disagree with someone, they'll use that word. It's like, wait a minute. I don't hate it. I either dislike it, I don't approve it, or it doesn't make me feel good. But hatred, I hear it all the time. People misusing the word hatred like crazy. I'm like, no, that's not hatred. You have to know the difference here. You might want to look that up in a definition, in a dictionary. All right. So here we have misogyny versus misandry. One's on the male side and the other's on the female side. I'm sure you figured that out. Fancy titles for evil, life-wasting behavior. Really fancy titles. When I first heard of them, many years ago, I was like, okay, is there like a word for everything? That's cool. It's pretty cool, but I mean, it just boils down to hatred. That's why I titled it The Gender War. It's in my movie, by the way, 1-hour video course. It's not the last chapter. I believe it's second to last. Very important. So, hatred is the son of evil itself. Pretty much. And yet, here we are using such words against each other, rather than learning how to work together as intelligent human beings. I mean, it's amazing. 2024, time doesn't exist, but it's an increment of measure. Here we are with The genders, for the most part, still fighting each other, still publishing propaganda saying, oh, the girls today and women are stupid, and the guys and the men and boys today, they're just all pretty much the same thing. Here we are. Nothing's really evolving, on a mass scale, but there's some pockets of hope. There's a lot of females against the feminist extremists, and there's plenty of males against the MGTOW movement. They'll claim to be peaceful, but no, they get violent. They turn the whole thing into like a black pill, purple pill mess. Whatever that means. I actually know what that means because I had to learn in order to understand those psychos. Pills? What is this, drugs? That's another topic for another day. So here we have our first article. Making misandry a hate crime will embolden abusive men. Oh boy. It's already too easy for men to cry foul every time a woman says or does anything they don't like. What are you talking about? Like I said, it's not hatred. If there's something that a guy doesn't like, okay. Oh, it's because he's a man. No, it's because he doesn't like something. It depends what it is. Could be a plethora of different possibilities. Don't enshrine that in law. Yeah, it doesn't belong in law. What are you talking about? Hate crimes are actual physical crimes. Like beating somebody up because of the color of their skin or their preferred sexuality. Whatever happens behind closed doors is their business. And I actually disagree with gay pride parades because, okay, it's okay to be gay, but you don't have to make a whole parade about it because now you're just painting yourself as a target. I get it, but it's kind of like a statement of fear. It's kind of like patriotism. Like, we don't need a flag to represent our nation. We need names of people that are hard to forget, heroes. A flag is kind of like, okay, now every country has a flag. It's kind of like, okay, it's a symbol, but there are far better symbols than that. But people have really taken it to heart. They're like, oh, it's the flag. I agree. Don't disrespect anybody's symbol because they put their heart and soul into it. But it's a little crooked because it kind of creates adversity, in the future. Like the Chinese flag. Well, they're communists, right? So people are going to look at that flag and hate that flag. People look at the American flag and think of all the bad examples, the bad apples. And they think, oh, that's America. No, there's a lot of great people in America. Very nice and giving, peaceful people. So yeah, I agree. The flag could exist. Nothing against the flag, but the gay pride flag is kind of like asking for it. It doesn't represent a country. It represents people. We already have too many flags as it is, but to each their own. It's a different topic. But this hate crimes is like, okay, they have a right to do so. I'm not going to go beat them up over it. I'm not going to go argue with them. As long as they're not harming anybody else or confusing little kids as to what their sexuality should be. No, let the kids decide for themselves. You don't have to be educating them on what's available. Let them figure it out for themselves. Give them guidance. Because the general rule in nature is that male goes with female in nature, right? So it's only natural for humans to have male and female. Now, they're going to argue with you and say same sex, this and that. But again, that's a different topic. To each their own. But I'm not going to hate them over it. It's your life, right? You choose what you want to do with it. Without further ado, let's go ahead and just continue for the purpose of this article. Okay. We don't want to get into a lot of other adjacent topics. A campaign started by the Labour MP Stella Creasy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. What is that, like Mr. Crease from Karate Kid? To consider misogyny as a form of hate crime has resulted in the Law Commission deciding to consider whether misandry should be categorized as a hate crime too. Well, there's your equality. Yeah, but it's not about hate. It's about either the crime itself or an act of injustice if it's a professional setting based on gender. It is the ultimate example of whataboutery Wow, is that a word? When a group of people cries, but what about X? Okay, okay. That must be slang, I swear. To distract attention from any legitimate decision of why, or discussion of why. Okay, you're kind of complicating things here. Let's get to the point, shall we? While misogyny has centuries of research, does it? Does it really? I don't even know if that was a thing that far ago. I wasn't there. Guess you're gonna have to trust the history books. Oh my goodness, what is this, like sociology on steroids? Some type of drug, I swear. Evidence, statistics, law and legislation, oppression, death and suffering behind it. Misandry is harder to pinpoint. Is it really, though? I mean, I see a lot of females mistreating males. My own mother mistreated me because I was a boy. But she also mistreated my sister. So it's like, okay, what do you call that? A hate crime, misogyny, and misandry? No, she's mistreating her own children, right? It's the act itself. What are we focusing on these fancy terms for? It's an individual basis, a human being we're talking about, just like the color of one's skin. Okay, we were forced to call each other black, white, Asian, whatever, Hispanic, but there's a lot of different Hispanic, Latin American, and there's also Spain. So, I mean, what are you going to call? You can't, everybody gets offended if you call somebody a blatant statement. And then black, well, I don't know. Are you from Africa? Or are you from an island somewhere? Are you going to look at your ancestry? Does it really matter? Anyways, I mean, we're all who we are in the end. I mean, I don't care. Okay, the color of your skin, your gender. I mean, if you're a warrior mentality person and you're productive, you're polite, and I mean, that's all that should matter. Even if you're a little kid or an adult, hey, I'll respect you as long as you're doing the right thing, not harming anybody, right? Anyways, this is not because we believe the men are not harmed, that men cannot be abused or that men cannot be oppressed, but because misandry seems to be thrown around generally at women. Okay, isn't that the point? For some petty, tenuous things that definitely are not hatred or hostility to men. Well, that's the same thing as saying misogyny, crying misogyny. Oh, that's misogyny, and no, that was just a simple disagreement. Or, a gender role that men think that, like doing pull-ups. It's only natural that a man could do more pull-ups than a woman, generally speaking. Unless you're G.I. Jane and the guy is like a couch potato, then yeah, G.I. Jane's going to win in pull-ups. It's all relative, is what I'm saying. So, this is crazy. The whole topic is crazy. That's why I wanted to end this series with this type of thing. This topic right here. It really is a curious thing because, like, people really push this stuff. When I read the news today, I thought about all the times I have been called a misandrist or accused of misandry. I mean, it depends. Do you really hate all men? I heard it all the time, many years ago. Throughout my teen years, I would hear it all the time. In my adult years, even. You hear it all the time to this day. Oh, I hate men. Men this, men that. But then, whenever men talk like that, because naturally you're going to have them saying the same thing. Oh, that's misogyny. And then so the women, the females, not women because they're all mature in this case. The ones who shout misogyny, they're so immature. So then they get upset when innocent men, they shout misandry. It's a two-way street. It's a simple equation. It's not calculus. It's not differential equations here. This isn't trigonometry. Last year, I was accused of misandry for launching a study in forensic psychology. Well, that's interesting. To explore the way women were blamed for the R word. Sorry, I can't say that on this platform. Women were blamed. Okay, yeah, that's wrong. Because the R word, that's a crime. How can you blame the woman for it? The victim. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I agree. I received hundreds of messages over a 3-month period calling me every name men could think of. I don't think those are men. women were blamed. Okay, is that what she said? I was accused of misandry for launching to explore the way women were blamed, but she's not saying to blame women. So why would she receive? Well, then those aren't men, those are immature males talking. Because as one put it, you are clearly a man-hating B-word to run the study about only about women. What about men? What are you talking about? It was a simple study. What about men? I mean, because obviously the ones who commit the R word are not men. They're blatant male evil cowards. They don't deserve the rank of to be called a man. That's where I come into play with my own original intelligence. I don't call people who don't deserve to be called a man or a woman a man or a woman. You must, I have to say, I wanted to keep this in the background. It's in my 1-hour video course, Earning Your Titles. That's precisely what I mean. I'm not going to go over everything because you have to go watch the movie. But what I will say is that the general gist of it, to sum up a lot more explanation and examples, is that you have to earn the rank of mother, father, brother, sister. I don't care what it is. Do you deserve that title? It's something called honor, right? However, in 2013, I opened the first male mental health center in the UK with my husband. We set up the center after police found the body of my father-in-law who had died after a long battle with trauma and addiction. Okay. Was that really necessary? Every year I write about the way gender role stereotypes harm men and women. I just don't know why she put that in the article. Okay, so every year I write about the way the gender roles stereotypes. Okay, stereotypes are not supposed to be taken seriously. Otherwise, they'll just continue to happen, right? It's like every other night, even the word misogyny and misandry. No, it's immaturity. Now we're using words that we're going to start promoting, inevitably. Okay, so, especially when anti-feminine really? Hyper-masculine gender roles? Hyper? How can you have hyper-masculine? You're either masculine or feminine. You mean like extremism? Whatever. Contributing to the high suicide rates in men and boys who are told to be... Oh, let me see here. There we go. To be strong, be emotionless, and to deal with their problems themselves. No. That's machismo. That's machismo. It's a Spanish word that just means that overly masculine, and I always disagreed with it growing up in a Spanish American environment, mainly. I always disagreed with that garbage. Because you can have strong females and strong males. End of story. It's not that... Because, look, okay, cooking, right? You can have male chefs who are awesome at cooking. But it's more than cooking. I mean, it's an art form. Many females even say, wow, watch out when a male learns how to cook because he's going to really cook way better than any woman. That's not true. I don't agree with that. But a lot of females say that. A lot of women. But, when a woman does things that's generally that a male does, like, so let's say self-defense. Wow, she can really kick and punch and throw. And I mean, she's just as capable. And that it just depends what the profession is or what the action is or what the role is. But, single parents. You have a father who can be a single parent, an awesome one. And then a mother who can do the same. But it's an unfortunate situation, but it's not that it can't be done to the best of the possibility given the case at hand. Everything is relative. So these are all just blanket statements and terms that's what really turns me off with these articles and just the way people speak with, oh, it's misogyny, it's misandry, it's a hate crime. No, is it a crime? And it really doesn't matter. I mean, if it's against a male or female, it's a crime, right? Lock them up. Do something legally, right? But if it's not something legal, an actual crime, then what are you guys arguing about? These are just opinions being tossed back and forth and getting too serious about it. And now, if it gets violent, then it's a crime because people are hurting each other physically or abusing each other verbally. Harassment, being offensive, I mean, that stuff's more serious. Not these ridiculous debates. You don't get anywhere with this kind of nonsense. This is almost like saying love doesn't exist. I mean, it's stupid. It's nonsense. Or soulmates don't exist. Just because most people haven't felt it. The power of love. Same garbage, but we have to go over it. Every year she writes about this. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue, man. What a drag. However, as it turns out, I am also a misandrist for talking about that too. I don't know if she's being sarcastic. In the wake of World Suicide Prevention Day this year, I received a week of abuse for saying, really? Was it really abuse? Or was it harassment? That gender role... See, this is extreme... This extremist language, you know what I'm saying? The style of speaking and writing, it's too extreme. You know, just take it down a few notches and be far more accurate. I don't think it's abuse. For saying that gender roles harm men, it depends. And I was called a misandrist for thinking I had the right to comment on men at all. You can. If you're a woman, you could comment on men. If you're a man, you could comment on women. What's the problem with that? Men tweeted to warn... Oh, tweeted. Here we go. Warn other men that our male mental health center was founded by a misandrist. That's an opinion. Could just be a hater. And not to seek support from us. I received vile abuse. It's not abuse. What are you talking about? Did they beat you up? Did they call you names? From men 24 hours a day. 24 hours? No. You can't be... See, oh my goodness gracious. This is really starting to tick me off. Look at this. Misusing the word abuse. I did not expect this. Now misusing 24 hours a day. Did they abuse you when you went to the bathroom, when you took a shower, when you were sleeping for hopefully 8 hours, at least 6 hours? When you were driving to work, when you were driving to the grocery store, 24 hours a day for a week? No, you would be in a mental institution from so much abuse. Give me a break. Were you awake those 24 hours? See, this is where I'm speechless. Let's just move on. The stupidity is amazing. And these people actually write articles. Absolutely speechless. So pathetic. Here we go with the penises. Oh my goodness. I was sent everything from pictures of their penises. Okay, you ever heard of a block button? Seriously? The D-pics. How did they even get your number? Did you make that public? You might want to change your phone number and use that for business and don't put it out in public. I mean, I don't get it. I don't understand this. And R and death threats. You know, just like really exaggerate here, right? To comments about my face, hair. Oh, boo-hoo. I mean, this is what haters do. They attack you all the time. Ad hominem. Hair, body, shape, and even my glasses. You need some thick skin, lady. One man sent pictures of me. I'm not supporting what these idiots are doing either. But to react like this? I mean, there's tons of people going through this every single day. Not 24/7. And they don't even call it abuse. It's harassment. That's what it is. Or bullying. But it's not abuse unless it's physical. But sending you pictures and stuff, I mean, you can block, you can censor all that. Just delete it. What's the problem here? Men told me I was so ugly, no man would R me. That's just so stupid. You know, they're not men. These are retards. You know, just like there's female retards too. I mean, they say the stupidest thing just like these idiots here are saying. You know, like, I've heard females say we should go off and cut oh, the man's penis is off and because they're men. And I'm like, whoa, 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 what? Do you know what you're even saying? Oh my goodness. Or we should neuter all men and they would be a lot more, what was it? A lot more calm and respectful. And no, you don't want to make everybody a eunuch. I mean, that's not going to roll over too well, okay? That's unnatural. That's evil. I mean, they already do it to pets. Whoever does it to their own pet, you're disgusting. Cutting off this and that. But anyways, I was told I should be infertile, of course, so I couldn't procreate. What do you expect? This is what haters say. This is nothing new. I was called a lesbian hundreds of times, as if this is not even an article anymore. As if that were an insult I should be horrified by. It seems like you are. Oh my goodness, give me a break. I was sent real misogynistic abuse. It's not abuse, lady. By the men, it's harassment. Jeez. Now everything's abuse these days. By the men who were also writing to tell me I was a misandrist. Oh my goodness, man. Check that out for some cognitive dissonance. No, you're the one with some dissonance. So, I'm a misandrist for not including men, and a misandrist for including men. Go figure. No, you have a lot to figure out. It's not just that. As if to add insult to injury, I reported the accounts to Twitter and Facebook for hate speech. I'm sure you did. And misogyny, and not a single account was taken down. Something called free speech, unfortunately. You could block these jokers. But unfortunately, it depends on the platforms and what their community guidelines. A lot of people get away with a lot of different stuff. This world is not a just world. Criminal justice is often justice for the criminals. I go over it in my streams. You know, a lot of different topics pertaining to this. Apparently, the abuse I received, it was harassment. Did not violate the community guidelines. I'm sure it did. But, I mean, it's not like one person's over there on Twitter and only focusing on you. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people getting away with a lot of things that they shouldn't be getting away with. I mean, the algorithm, the AI, artificial intelligence that it's in charge primarily. I mean, you're talking about what? Millions of accounts? You know, tens of millions, hundreds of millions. I mean, you name it. And you're going to be concerned, well, this violates. How come you didn't get this? Nothing's perfect on the online world. You're supposed to be perfect, but you got a lot to work on. Oh my goodness, by judging by this article, quote unquote, air quotes. The point is, yes, please get to the point. When we talk about misogyny, which you haven't been really talking about, harassment, yes, but misogyny, actual hate crimes, we are talking about the global societal issue of the life-threatening prejudice. Yeah, there's no life-threatening. I mean, you got death threats, but those are all empty threats. You know that, right? Hatred, harm, oppression. See, we could have just left it at hatred, not misogyny or misandry. We could have just left it at hatred. Because now you're promoting the gender war. Hey, pick a side, you know? The R word, marginalization and harassment. There you go. Good girl. Of women and girls purely based on their gender. Yeah, just like racism based on your color. But racism that's hate, but it's not a crime. They just don't like that person, the certain people of color or origin, you know. I guess that's part of freedom, unfortunately. You know, somebody can hate dogs and hate cats. What are you going to do about it? Make up a word for that? I don't know. It's just, you know, as long as they don't hurt somebody, now you've crossed the line. Physically hurt somebody or verbally harassing somebody to the point of abuse, verbal abuse, yeah, now it's a crime. Because the intent is there to cause harm, mentally, emotionally, or physically. Millions of women and girls being mutilated, sold, objectified, dehumanized, and even murdered for being female. Unfortunately, that is a reality. But let me point to you this. You know baby chicks, little chickens? Well, in the meat factories, They always toss the male chicks to be grinded into chicken nuggets, right? But nobody's making up a word for that. I'm just saying, well, it's an animal, right? Well, it's the same example. No, a crime is a crime, no matter, regardless of the gender. And the consequences of those actions need to be enforced. It's just that simple. I mean, now we're going to make up all these words, and it's just like, we're not providing solutions. And then we can end up exaggerating the main problem itself. Misandry, on the other hand, seems to be anything a woman says or does that any man doesn't like. No, that's not true. No. I've actually experienced hate crime, if you will, by an abusive mother. Neglect, verbal abuse, even physical abuse. I've been slapped in my face, a good number of times, even as a 10-year-old kid. Did I cry misandry? No. It's physical abuse. It's verbal abuse. Is it a crime? Well, she didn't break any of my bones. She didn't beat me till I was a pulp or bruised and bloody or anything. So it's not a crime, unfortunately. It's called corporal punishment. And parents, the further back in history you go, it was completely allowed. Even when you joined the military back then, they could punch you in the face and have no repercussions at all. The drill sergeant can just knock you out in front of the formation, and you're all bloody nosed and everything, maybe some broken teeth and a broken jaw, and you can't do anything because you're government property. That's abuse. This stuff right here, this is harassment. Unless they cause, physical, emotional, or mental pain. Like, I'm talking about real pain here. Something to prove it. State that the majority of all violent crime, there you go, violence, is committed by men. And even words, it's not violence, it's abuse. It could turn abusive, but most of the time it's harassment. And you can't do certain steps to prevent that. Turn men down because you are a lesbian. Misandry. Choose to research women's and girls' lives. See, you are being so naive here. This is so ridiculous. This is so immature. You see, that's the problem with these words, and that's exactly why I wanted to do this as a final finale. To go over a stupid article that's promoting these words to say, oh, look at all this exaggeration, misandry, misogynism. Okay, what's your solution? Because the way you describe it, yes, it's harassment. It could be abusive. So what's with the words, right? We don't need any more of these words. We don't need to promote them. Notice how generally people don't use words from the Shakespearean days. We don't need them anymore. We all speak on a 6th grade English level because we can understand each other that much more quickly, and we can get the job done. We don't need to, there's no time here to show off with, oh, do you know what this word means? Or do you know what this word means? Like, you know how long it would take to accomplish things? Oh, what's that word mean? Oh my goodness, the 5 and 10 minutes just went by. Talk about oppression of women, misandry. No, that's called real feminism. Real feminism was originally created to talk about the oppression of women. The injustices, whether domestic or professional. That's real feminism, which I do support. And men's rights activists, they should do the same exact thing. Because nowadays you can have a female boss, and then maybe at home your wife is abusing you. So men's rights is exactly the same as feminism. But we're not going to call it what? Masochism, masculinism. We don't need a word for it. Men's rights and women's rights. We should even toss out the word feminism. We don't need another ism. It should just be women's rights activists, men's rights activists, human rights activists. How about that? Just one department that deals with both genders. Now that would be beautiful. The concept of misandry is dangerously vague. You're being really vague here. In comparison to the reality of misogyny. It's not. It's the same thing. Only a different gender is the one committing it. Is that really so hard to understand? I predict that if misandry is taken forward as a hate crime, so what? Only misogyny deserves to be labeled hate crime? How convenient, because you're the female here. How convenient. It will be used to curb discussions of male violence and female oppression. I don't know. You tell me. What about misogyny? Does that curb discussions of female violence and male oppression? I think I got that right. It was okay. So that first article was a complete joke. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it's real, but let's go ahead and move on to the second article, shall we? We're gonna pick up the pace here a little bit. Okay. Wow. Wow. What a laugh. I didn't expect that. We should have the right not to like men, the French writer at center of literary storm. Seriously? I've heard about this. Exclusive. Okay, so female and feminist voices aren't always welcome among men, says Pauline Armange. Okay. So some French chick lady. Oh my goodness. I mean, little do they know that they're actually promoting the gender war. You know, it's just whatever. I mean, let's continue, because otherwise, when Pauline Armange, a French writer and aspiring novelist, published a treatise or treatise, what? A treatise? I have to look that word up, on hating men. She expected it to sell at the most. They see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Why would you use a word like that? And I'm sure I'm not the only one who has to go look that up. That's just so stupid. On hating men, she expected it to sell at the most of a couple of 100 copies among friends and readers of her blog. Okay, instead, a threat by a government official to take legal action to ban moi les I hate men. I don't speak French, by the way. Has made it a sellout. Okay. Or I mean, sellout is, I don't know. You might want to change that to bestseller. I mean, you're trying to be different, because that's not a good choice. The first 450 copy print run was quickly snapped up. See, this is what people want. A book like mine is going to be a tougher sell because people love the drama. See that? Oh boy. As was the following two reprints. Now 2,500 copies have been sold. Okay. The publisher, Monstrograph, described as a micro-publishing house run by volunteers, is overwhelmed and says, I Hate Men will not be reprinted again. Okay. Unless a bigger publisher comes to the rescue. Oh, maybe they can't, supply and demand. They can't meet the demand. Okay. Armange, 25 years old, is a mix of bemused and shell-shocked to find herself in the middle of a literary and political storm. I don't know. Are you another one who's exaggerating here? I didn't expect this. It's been an enormous surprise, she told The Guardian from her home in Lille, northern France, where she lives with her husband, Mathieu, 29. Oh, 4 years older? Okay. And 11, the cat. Your cat's name is 11? Mine's name is 12. No, I'm just kidding. It's the first time. Do we go by military hours here? Let's see. 100. Is it noon or is it evening? Midnight. It's the first time I've had a book come out. I wrote a novel, but it was never published. Okay. Can we get to the point? Armange said she was asked to write I Hate Men. Such a nice title, isn't it? After someone spotted a blog she had written on misandry, or man-hating. The 96-page essay opens with a quote from Sylvia Plath's The Bell Jar. The trouble was I hated the idea of serving men in any way. Okay. And it explores whether women have good reason to hate men. Depends. I mean, look, if you experience something bad with one man and you're going to say that all men are like that, That's like the definition of stupidity and immaturity to assume such a thing. I am married to a man who is great and really supports my writing. Okay. You gonna toss him in there too? With your blanket statements and accusations? But in general, I mistrust men I don't know. Well, anybody would mistrust. I mean, it's not mistrust. Anybody wouldn't trust a stranger. Doesn't matter if it's a man or woman. What are you talking about? Armange. I just don't have confidence in them. It depends. Have you established any type of connection? A friendship, an acquaintance at least? I mean, this is so ridiculous. This comes less from personal experience, I bet, than from being an activist in a feminist organization. Oh, that's the problem. That helps the victims of R and sexual assault for several years. I can state for a fact, really, that the majority of aggressors are men. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, this is why this is going to continue. You know, always measuring, always comparing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if, more men are committing crimes, more black people are committing crimes in this area. Oh, but more white people are committing crimes in this area. Does it really matter the color of their skin or their gender? Can we not just address the problem at hand, the situation at hand? Because by stating all this mumbo jumbo, you're making a bad situation worse. She added, if we are heterosexual, we are encouraged to like men. Naturally. What's wrong with that? But we should absolutely have the right not to like them. The right? Are you so stupid? The right? You have the right to do whatever you want as long as you don't hurt other people. But now you're fueling the hatred by saying the right to not like them. I mean, imagine the other way around. I have the right to not like women. Okay, I would be labeled a loser if I said that. I mean, there's beautiful women out there, inside and out. I realize this sounds like a violent sentiment. No, it sounds like a stupid sentiment. But I feel strongly we should be allowed to not love them. Oh my goodness, now you don't even know what the word love is. That's why you're writing this in the first place. I bet you don't even love your own husband. Your own husband must be some pushover or something. This is so difficult to finish here as a whole and make exceptions for certain men. No, to the men who deserve to be the exception. Wow. I am just genuinely surprised. The book says defending misandry is liberating. Is that what it says? You don't say. And can create space for sorority and sisterhood. That's not sisterhood. That's just retardedhood. What if women have good reasons to detest men? What are you talking about? All of men. Do you realize what you're saying here? You child. All of men. In your lifetime, it's impossible to even get to know half of these men. A third. Even the fraction is horribly small. And you're going to assume that all men are like this. And you have the right to dislike them. Of course you have the right to feel however you want to feel. And to detest them. That's your problem. That's your psychological problem. Speak for yourself. Right? What if anger towards men, here we go, anger, hatred, detesting, dislike, all negative. This is precisely what I mean by if you want to become a winner in this life and not a loser, you need to eliminate all forms of negativity. It's garbage like this that's just fits the perfect example of everything I preach, as far as that's concerned. I even did a stream called Winner versus Loser, right? Winners versus Losers. Highly recommend that you watch that. It's not part of a series. Okay. Oh my goodness, man. Oh my goodness. This is so difficult to read. What if anger towards men is, in fact, a joyful... Wow. Really? That brings you joy? Oh my goodness, you gotta get a life. You have no life if you find joy in detesting an entire gender. It's you who's full of hatred and evil. And emancipating, wow. When it is allowed to express itself. Armange writes. Oh, I feel sorry for her husband. I feel sorry for her. She is truly lost. And you know, we haven't even learned anything from this article from her point of view. She's just talking about the most ridiculous things. And she wrote a book about this? I'm not reading it. I Hate Men was published on 19 August, a few years ago, I think, when much of France was, and shame on France for supporting this garbage, was enjoying the summer holiday, and it almost certainly would have passed unnoticed had Ralph, an advisor to France's gender equality ministry. Okay, I hope that works both ways, that ministry. Apparently not. Not written to threaten legal action. Okay, it shouldn't be legal unless there's a crime involved. This book is obviously an ode to misandry, hatred of men, both in terms of the summary on the... yeah, I bet it is. By the way she talks. Both in terms of the summary on your site and in reading its title. I would like to remind you that incitement to hatred on the basis of sex is a criminal offense. Well, inciting, I would say that's a call to action. Like, hey, ladies, get your pitchforks and let's go hurt men. Doesn't matter who they are. That's inciting. A call to action. I don't think her book, I think it's freedom of speech. She can say whatever she wants. But you don't have to support her. But hey, people are free to buy the book. I'm not against that. She's just being stupid and naive, but to each their own, if the shoe fits. But she should be allowed to do this. I don't think there's any crime here. It's not a criminal offense. I mean, the R word is a criminal offense. That's a crime. Consequently, I ask you to immediately remove this book from your catalog. See, now that we're talking about censorship, I don't support that. Under penalty of criminal prosecution. It's a little too extreme. We have extremism everywhere in this world. Armand said, we were a little afraid to start with, but the first print had already been sold, so the publishers decided to send the books out and see what happened. As a precaution, they didn't print anymore. Well, I wouldn't print your book either. I wouldn't censor you, but I wanted to print your book. Sorry, Armand. I mean, I was shocked. Yeah, were you really? This man works for the Secretary of State of Equality between men and women. Yeah, they should have really allowed it, actually. There's far worse books out there, by the way, that are allowed to be printed scot-free, whose mission is to do something about sexual assaults and ours. Yeah, but we're talking about a book here. It seemed outrageous that he was more concerned about censoring a small feminist book. That's not feminist. That's not feminist. That's not, no. By the way you're talking, it's a stupid book. Instead of doing his job. What's his job then? To satisfy your need? I mean, yeah, I agree. It was unjust. It is censorship. But I mean, you got to be more specific than that. You know, the who, the when, the what's. When the story was picked up by the French investigative website, the publishers went ahead with a reprint. The ministry told Mediapart that Zermeli, whatever, who who it appeared had read only the title and the publisher's description of I Hate Men. Yeah, that you don't judge a book by its title. This is classic. He overreacted, and that's unjust. Had acted on his own initiative. You see, the French magazine described Zermelay's zeal as cancel culture. Yeah, that's what it was. Par excellence, and pointed out that nobody had sought to censor Baudelaire from writing of the 19th century. Okay, I get it. She is stupid. She is heavy. She is talkative. The fact is that a few men have fallen in love with this latrine. That means a bathroom, ladies and gentlemen. It's a military. There's a lot of French in our U.S. military. Like the beret, it's a barret. And then the bayonet, le bayonet. And la latrine is the freaking restroom, okay? I mean, there's a ton of French. People don't get it. This is funny, because he just called her a latrine. You could have been more specific, like a toilet or something, but I guess that's what he means. Is proof of the lowliness of the men of this century. See, there she goes again. It's not. There's one person representing all men, and the whole century. Two exaggerations by this idiot. Right? I agree that she should be able to publish her book, and people should be able to support her. No cancel culture, no censorship. But this is stupid, because this is why she deserves that. She's getting what she deserves. This is karma. Because look at her attitude. She's promoting hatred. Like, look at this. The lowliness of men. That means every single man that exists. Including yours truly. Which she doesn't even know. She doesn't know me. I don't know her. Of this century. So not just me, but people before me. And most likely people after me. How stupid can you be? See, it's blanket statements like this. That's why I don't want to read her book. You gotta be stupid. I mean, seriously, to want to participate in that. What a life waster. And why not ban Michael? Here we go. Why not ban this guy for his misogyny while we're at it? I mean, that's the way these people behave. Oh my goodness, man. Armange laughed at the idea. I highly doubt she's capable of laughing. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, misogyny is so well anchored in French literature, we often don't even realize it. Is it really, though? Or is it just men being men and males being males, immature males being males? As long as, like I said, as long as they don't physically harm you or harass you mentally and emotionally, it's not a crime. And unfortunately, it's always just like trolls and losers, online and offline. They're always going to exist. I mean, in order to eradicate all evil behavior, I mean, we would have to have like more than a dictatorship. Everything would have to be monitored and controlled. Is that the type of world you want to live in? Freedom it's a dangerous thing. And there is no system of governance that's going to get rid of all evil in this world. I mean, unless everybody changes from within. But that's a tall order. It's possible. But is it likely? Sadly, not these days, right? So, anyways, she said misandry was often seen as a joke or worse. Well, I think the same thing about misogyny. It is a joke, and it is worse. A tool to discredit feminists. But she believes, no, because that's not feminism. But she believes there's nothing wrong with owning this hatred. It's not hatred. It's disapproval. Once again, my goodness, you have to have so much endurance for this lady. Which she says is legitimate given the harm men do to women. So you're saying that women never do any harm to men? It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way. Misandry exists only as a reaction to misogyny. No. It's because it does exist. It's a two-way street, as I just said. I mean, why do you want it only one way? So you can control an entire gender that you just blanket. You make these blanket statements that you just assume everything and anything for the entire gender. I wouldn't want you in any type of powerful role, which is the root of systemic violence. Really, really. Oh my! Wow. This is yet another insane. I do mean insane. Bold, underline, italics, overstatement, generalization. The book cites statistics from 2018. Wow, you really went that far back. Showing that 96% of people convicted of domestic violence were men. I highly disagree with those statistics. If you just blindly believe numbers like statistics, it depends on the study. It depends on the sample of the population. It depends on whether or not these studies were paid for by other companies to make it seem like or sense like these numbers are going to serve somebody, like this lady here. 99% of those convicted of sexual violence were men. You know, there's actual sexual violence. You ever heard of Lorena Bobbitt? That's just one case of actually many, especially in Asia. You guys need to do your homework. There is plenty of females, evil females, conducting sexual crimes or abusive crimes, even verbal abuse or whatever. It works both ways. I mean, which part of the world are we talking about here? She just says statistics. I mean, is this in the U.S. alone? And even then, you're not gonna garner the perfect the perfect poll for such a category. This is a very personal, private matter. Many people don't even report domestic violence; they just suck it up, males and females. Consider that. Whereas Misandry has never killed anyone. I disagree. I mean, let me just say one thing, as I said in a stream before recently. Mothers tossing their newborn babies into garbage cans in dumpsters. I'm going to leave it at that. Where's that in your article? Armange says her husband is one of the exceptions. Naturally, right? How convenient. So you're one of the exceptions. Why do you say all men then? See, now you're contradicting yourself. In the thanks at the end of the book, she writes, wow, that he was the first of us to believe in me. Oh, wow. She said, he's as astonished as I am about the reaction to the book. I don't know. I don't know. There's something wrong with your husband. Sorry. But he supports me in my writing. He just worries about me getting harassed online. Well, everybody worries about that, but you can easily deal with that. But you're kind of asking for it. I mean, you're making all these statements trying to provoke the bear. There's a lot of bears in this world that you don't want to poke. Armange said the negative reaction to the book was predictable. Female and feminist voices aren't always welcome among men. No, we just get sick of the extremism. Like the garbage that you actually said in this article. Because they're not facts. It's not true, everything that you say. And yes, you should expect opposition. But to call it hatred just because we oppose what you're saying, you're the messed up one. Capiche? Now let's go ahead and move on to the third and final article. My goodness. I told you this was going to be a banger. Why the man-hating feminist is a myth. Oh, here we go. We got the defense. So, man-hating is supposed to be considered normal and natural, and yeah, let's just allow it. Okay, why don't we just allow racism then? And, hate crimes, real hate crimes. While we're at it, right? According to science. Oh boy, science. Anybody who takes science 100% without question is an idiot. As part of the Women Against Feminism campaign that launched in 2014, social media posts have featured young women holding placards with the message, I don't need feminism because, listing various reasons ranging from I respect men, that's nice, to I am not a man hater. That's nice. I can't believe we actually have to have, placards saying that. This perception of misandry, a hatred of men, is perhaps the most prevalent and enduring stereotype about feminism. No, the extremists, yes, it does apply. By this account, because they're not real feminists, feminism is not really a movement to end sexism. That's another word for it. And bring about gender equality, but rather it is wholly concerned with dislike of men. Yeah, well, that shouldn't be a part of feminism at all, whether it's extreme or regular. While Women Against Feminism was ultimately eclipsed 3 years later by the Me Too movement. Yeah, that was a biased movement. That was an agenda-based movement. It quickly died out because even the gullible people didn't fall for that mess. Even commercials were promoting that jazz. Garbage. It reflects a wider reality that stereotypes about feminism have caused women to spurn and even publicly denounce the movement. Spurn? Really? You had to use that word? But it is actually true. Is it actually true that feminists tend to dislike men? Not according to our recent research. You don't need to do any research. This is so stupid. What do you mean, is it true that feminists tend to dislike men? Obviously, in order to be a true feminist, to support real feminism, you have to be professional, kind, cool, calm, collected, and focus on the basic rights. That's it. Men's rights, women's rights. So if you, as soon as you let in extremists and then a lot of self-proclaimed feminists, that's where the problem is, because they're out of control and they're trying to vent their frustrations on an entire gender. It's just like allowing a criminal to go work at your organization and they have a history of robbing banks. I don't think he should work at this bank. Right? Do you think that's a wise choice to allow such a person into your community? That's why there's background checks, right? Same thing with feminism. I mean, if you don't do background checks to say, okay, do you have a problem with men? A serious problem. Like you literally hate all men? Then you can't be a part of the feminist movement. Because that's unprofessional. That's inhumane. That's it. It's really that simple. And the same thing with the men's rights activists. Don't allow these crazy MGTOWers in who hate all women. Same thing. A root cause of hatred. Here we go with the word hatred. Research. Oh, here we go. Evidence shows that awareness of negative tropes of feminists as man-haters reduces both women's willingness to identify as feminists and their support of gender equality initiatives. Yeah, it really kills the feminism movement. It really does. Because, I mean, allowing those jokers to represent your name, whoever's name this is, really feminism. I don't know whose it is anymore. Seems anybody can just toss that title around. The idea of the man-hater also animates hatred of feminism and of women. Wow. That's concerning. In the manosphere. I really don't like that word, manosphere. I mean, man cave is okay. And women's night out is okay. But manosphere, there is no manosphere. It's either you're masculine, we just refer to men. I mean, websites that promote masculinity and misogyny. No, that's not the manosphere. Misogyny is stupid. Masculinity is okay. Here we go again. Where it is used to promote opposition. You mean conflict. To gender equality. I mean, at this point, it's stupid. And to justify acts of violence. No, to just promote immaturity and acts of stupidity. Of course, there are reasons to suspect that at least some feminists might hold negative attitudes towards men. Naturally. Unfortunately. A few even advocate misandry as a rational and authentic response. Authentic? To men's violent, degrading, and oppressive treatment of women. Those aren't men. Those are losers. Unfortunately, everywhere. There's you're going to find losers everywhere. in a restaurant, in a school, at your job, wherever, on the sports field, whatever it is. In a way, you can't control that. It would make sense for feminists to dislike a group that threatens their welfare and dignity. Don't use that word. And we know that negative feelings toward advantaged groups in society can actually be an important driver of protest and other forms of collective action. Protesting just never works. It never works. All you're going to do is just go vent out all your frustration and anger. And there's no... Protest should be preaching solutions. So take the bullhorn out there with you, and start preaching solutions. Not just say, duh, 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 right? What does that do? You're just wasting your precious energy and time. You're not going to get anything accomplished. I mean, just bring the signs and let the signs do the yelling. Why don't you pull out the bullhorn and start explaining, this is how we can improve this situation. Who's with me? Who has any other ideas? Let's write them down on this big whatever chalkboard or digital screen or something. You know what I mean? Just teach the people. Don't just go out there saying blah, 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 blah. I mean, is that really going to do anything? Because it doesn't. It has a horrible track record. But feminists, at least those describing to mainstream liberal beliefs, liberal and conservative, this is another stupid politics. This is another huge part of the problem. Oh, he's a right-wing extremist. She's a left-wing. It's so, what does that even mean? It's so stupid. Oh, they're my political views. This is like religious people saying, oh no, Muhammad this and Jesus that. You're wrong. I'm right. My religion's correct. Your religion's incorrect. Oh no, I'm a Republican. The Democrats are to blame. I'm a Democrat. No, the Republicans are to blame. How stupid can people be? Seriously. This is exactly why we have the world we have today. All this Satanism, which means adversity. Everybody fighting each other over nothing. No solutions are discussed. Nobody really is intelligent enough to come up and say, I think this is the solution to this problem and we should stop arguing with each other. Nope. You're living in a fantasy world, unfortunately. Often see men and women as relatively similar to each other. You think? And we know that perceived similarity promotes attraction and positive attitudes toward individuals and groups. Feminists might therefore be expected to have positive attitudes, once again, towards men. Such views have been reflected in the words, I'm really holding back my words here, and actions of some prominent feminists. The writer Bell Hooks explicitly called out the suffering of men, particularly men of color, under misogynistic systems. These sentiments were echoed by, the UN. Wow, we're going to get the UN involved? Is it really that bad, people? We can't solve our own problems? Let's go cry to the UN, people, so that they can control everybody. How about that? Is that a solution that you guys like? I bet the UN is like, ooh, I like this approach. We can control them through this. That's what the UN is. There's nothing united about the nations. Despite its longevity and impact, the misandry stereotype has been subject to little scientific scrutiny. Really? I think I'm scrutinizing all of this. The studies have been done, like most in psychology, are limited by small samples. That's the problem. And then you people come out and say 99% of men and women and with this little sample. I got it. I got the ultimate statistic. that are often, if I go out and survey 3 people or 300 people, what's your favorite color? See, people, the world's favorite color is red. See, that's proof. I surveyed 3,000 people. Well, congratulations there, Fido. The studies have been done, so exclusively from populations of university. See, university students. That's why I don't follow statistics. It's always a sample from here or there, and there could be money involved. Just like in boxing, right? You're going to go down in the 5th because I'm betting with this person, right? Betting all my money on this person. So you're going to take the fall, okay? So I can get my money. You don't know what's going behind those statistical polls. Previous investigations have also been hampered by the relatively few women who identified at least openly as feminists, and their samples as low as 17%. Really? That number would be much higher in other areas. More recent polling data shows in the U.S. show that 60% of women and 33, oh, that's that nice number right there. How convenient. 33% of men consider themselves as feminists or strong feminists. No, it doesn't work like that, okay? You're for human rights, regardless of gender. It doesn't make any sense for a man to be a feminist. It's so stupid. Or for a woman to be a men's rights activist. No, one's for men and the other one's for women. And you both are for human rights in general. End of story. Stop trying to gender swap. That's like saying I make the perfect wife and my wife makes the perfect husband. You know, it doesn't work that way. Got it? And like, seriously, that's like saying non-binary. The list goes on. In the UK, 67% of 18 to 24-year-olds identify as feminists. Okay. So what does that mean? To identify as something, what are the actions? It's one thing to identify, but what's the quality? Okay, I identify as a taekwondoist, as a martial artist. Okay, how good of a fighter am I? Do I believe in fighting other people or competing in tournaments? You have to analyze the whole profile and not just the title. Hey, look at me. I identify as this. Okay, how does that help anything? Right? What's more, the measures of attitudes towards men often conflate the overall positivity and negativity with stereotypes and ideological beliefs. For example, please give me an example. Researchers may use statements such as "men act like babies when they are sick." Are you stupid? Who the heck wrote this? To measure hostile attitudes to men. Well, that you could say the same thing that women act like babies when they are sick. You know? Oh, I gotta rub your feet. I gotta go get you this and that. Your man might want a back massage and you have to go get him this and that. What are we learning here? Absolutely nothing from these people. The problem here, no, really? Just one? Well, just one problem, dude? Is that research participants might agree with this statement even if they are very fond of men. They may just endorse specific social stereotypes about how men overreact to illness. You know what? I'm just gonna leave that as blank. Oh look, digging deeper. Yes, please continue digging deeper. Oh my goodness. The trench of immaturity, please. Yes, please do. In our research, your research sucks. We recruited 10,000 participants across China, US, South Korea, India, Japan, Taiwan, UK, and Poland. Okay, where are we going with this? Although I like the three we's here. Look how he starts those paragraphs. We. We included various measurements of attitudes to men and feminism itself, including the extent to which someone identified as feminist, their specific beliefs, and their participation or support of feminist social action. What does that even mean? Social action. I mean, are you trying to force it on people? Or are you trying to promote a message? Social action is very vague. You know, to do something about something? I mean, did it work? So many questions. We generally included a way for participants to indicate whether they had positive or negative attitudes in absolute rather than just relative terms. For example, we often included feeling thermometers in which participants rated how they felt about men on a sliding scale rather from 0, very cold, to 100, very warm. What are we even talking about here? With 50 being neutral, neither cold or warm. Wow, I mean, this person is on drugs. Like, what do you mean digging deeper? Like, what are we digging here? We found that feminists overall had positive attitudes. See how useless these things are? That's why I'm going over it. People, you need to stop wasting your time if you're so obsessed in the feminism, in this whole blown out of proportion masculinity, which is not really masculinity, this MGTOW crap. Seriously, people need to seriously grow up if they can. See, this is the loser's corner right here. People who just participate in this garbage. We found that feminists overall had positive attitudes toward men. I would hope so, scoring well above the scale midpoint on feelings of warmth, liking, and trust. Feminists and non-feminists barely differed in their attitudes. These patterns were largely consistent across 9 countries and 3 continents. Bravo! Wow, I wonder how much it costs to conduct such a study. Jeez, I could have told you that. Things are relatively okay. Now let's go ahead and waste millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars on a study that's going to tell us what? The obvious? Similarly, participation in feminist action was associated with anger about the mistreatment of women. You'd think that's the whole point of it. But not with negative attitudes toward men. Okay, that's good. Feminists' attitudes towards men were in fact about as positive as men's attitudes toward men. Okay, congratulations, but that's not everywhere, unfortunately, because people are being brainwashed, as the other articles just pointed out, to hate all men and to justify the hate. I should have the right to. In some countries, we ask people to tell us how positively or negatively they thought feminists felt toward men. This allowed a direct comparison of what feminists actually think and what people think they think. That's funny. A true test of the accuracy of the misandry stereotype. People incorrectly stereotype feminists as having more negative attitudes toward men than feminists actually reported. No, that's wrong. No, it's not a stereotype. It's a fact. The feminist movement is just heavily infiltrated. That's why there was the Me Too movement. It came out of corrupted feminism. Like I said, I have no problem with women defending their rights and making sure that there's no injustice happening or crimes, such as the R word or sexual harassment even. Absolutely, that's a behavioral characteristic that needs to be changed among immature males. And also I'm for males' rights, but, it's kind of less needed because, men tend to fend for themselves, but no, regardless, there are lots of male victims. And they do need representation. It's not that they're too weak to defend themselves, but they do need some type of protection because it does happen with little kids, teenagers, and adults, men and women, little boys and girls. On average, participants believe that feminist attitudes to men were negative in absolute terms. Well, it's not absolute. One should never speak in absolutes unless it's a fact. Feminist participants were not quite as wrong about the attitudes of fellow feminists, but still massively undermined their peers' warm feelings toward men. Importantly, because the backlash, these are the consequences of promoting so much hatred in the Western world, with a bunch of angry females saying this and that about men, and then a bunch of angry men saying this and that about females. It's just like the stupid gender war. And unfortunately, far too many people are still participating in this garbage. That's why I included it in my 1-hour video course. And also in my book. Importantly, this finding was replicated with a nationally represented sample of adults in the UK. A gold standard in research into social attitudes. Is it really a gold standard? Just because you're in the UK. Alright, last slide here, people. Origins of the stereotype. My goodness. If the stereotype that feminists hate men is unfounded, where does it come from? Our results suggest 2 possible reasons. First, believing that feminists hate men is a convenient way to dismiss what they have to say. No. We've already heard what they had to say. The problem is that they get more and more extreme. The bad apples. And then they drown out the voices of the good feminists who don't hate all men. That's the problem. Is not an excuse to dismiss anything. We heard what the real feminists have to say. We agree with them. But it's the toxic ones that make your movement look bad these days. That's the problem. This possibility was backed up by the fact that participants who scored highly on a measure of hostile sexism, that's what it all boils down to, sexism. Either way, two-way street, viewing women as trying to usurp men's power. That's not going to happen. Nowadays we have males and females in power. What are you talking? There is no usurping. We're most prone to seeing feminists as man-haters. This is just senseless repetition here. Second, even pro-feminist participants made an important mistake. They thought that feminists see men and women as largely dissimilar to each other. Well, there are obvious differences. I can't do things that a female can do. A female can't do certain things a male can do. That's just basic nature right there. We all have, there are gender roles. That's why I need a woman in my life and she needs a man in her life. We complement each other naturally, by natural fact. In fact, feminist participants tended to see men and women as largely alike. Yeah, we're alike, but we can never be each other. That's why we need each other. This makes sense given that women have historically been discriminated against. So have men of all different colors. It wasn't just the blacks. It was the Asians. It was the Mexicans. All across the world, there's discrimination everywhere. You can't be saying stuff like this historically. With just women. No, and even children discriminated. Oh, you're too young to understand. Go back to playing with your toys. And then, so they grew up uneducated, and then the whole problem repeats itself because you have stupid children. Uneducated children. No honor, no discipline. That's why there's trolls online and haters online. Because they're kids who never were taught proper manners, honor, discipline, self-respect, and mutual respect for others. No, that's exactly why we have the same problems. Because, history, you want to talk about history, dude? Discrimination only promotes more discrimination. That's why I created the abuse series, such as not being rational enough for certain jobs. Ultimately, we hope that by showing that feminism is not synonymous with man-hating, unfortunately these days it is. You can't change that. You're going to have to fix it somehow, but you can't change that overnight. Sorry, the damage has been done. The image of feminism has gone downhill for years. Thanks to garbage like the Me Too movement. And MGTOW, they make, men look like weaklings and idiots. No wisdom at all. We don't need we really don't need these movements. It's just sexism and stupidity, lack of wisdom. To stupefy the mind, to dumb down the mind. These aren't insults. This is just a bare fact. We can contribute to a more informed and accurate discussion about gender relations. Relations? After all, people should be making judgments based on fact. Oh, that's what I just said. Rather than fiction. Yeah, because all your misogyny and misandry is all fiction. Now, if there's an actual crime, as I said so many times, then it's not fiction, is it? All right, everybody, let me go ahead and take a look at the chat, see if there's any sign of intelligent life out there before I close this out as a final finale of episode 10 of Article Reviews. That's right. Okay. What an intense final finale, I must say. Really went overtime and overboard, but you can thank yours truly. C4, welcome to the chat. Right, I always tell them statistics are not facts. Yeah, and thanks for catching that part of the stream. I appreciate it. That's the reason for little goblin boys, no honor. Yeah. Welcome. Thank you so much for participating, C4. And I'll always be checking out your channel like always. You got it, my friend. Thank you so much. I needed these laughs because the start of the week is challenging, but thanks to you guys and these topics closing out, then the next best thing is to come. Don't worry, just because I'm closing out all these series, that means a much better thing is to come. Trust me. This is just to finish up a bunch of free content for anybody new to the channel or anybody who wants to go back and listen to these hilarious or highly entertaining or highly educating streams. have at it. Now you have a source to go to. In addition to my book and 1 hour video course. One you have to purchase, and the other is completely free. All this tons of hours. So, hope you guys really enjoyed this final finale of Article Reviews episode 10. Have a good one. Stay positive. Stay strong. If you don't have a soulmate in your life, go find one. You won't find them at Walmart, or maybe you will. A potential soulmate in aisle 10, next to the baby powder. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Have a good one. Catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Much love.